Hello, Dominic here from the Bournemouth Writing Festival. Looking forward to welcoming you to Bournemouth Town Centre on the 26th, 27th and 28th of April 2024. Now, we have over 80 writing events and activities happening over those 3 days. Some of them are free, some of them are ticketed, and some of them are going to be pay what you can. We want to try to be as inclusive as possible. So there's a handful where you can choose how much you want to pay. Now we've got a range of talks, workshops, panels, walks. We've got a poetry hub where you can take part in different poetry activities with some poets. We've got writing on the beach, and we have genre breakfast where if you write in a certain genre, you can go to a certain cafe and meet other writers writing in your genre. So there's lots and lots of stuff happening throughout the three days. So please have a look at the website and have a look at the program schedule. It's called At a Glance, which is on the talks page, to see what you would be interested in, and hopefully you will be inspired to keep on writing and to improve and progress in your writing journey. Now, today we have a very special guest, Andreina Cordani, and she is an author and journalist. Now, she has written for the likes of Cosmopolitan, Grazia, and Good Housekeeping magazine. She has 3 books, and they've all received amazing critical acclaim. In fact, I've read one of them, Dead Lucky, and I think it's brilliant. So I'm really excited to have Andreina coming to the Writing Festival and doing a talk this year. Her latest book, The 12 Days of Murder, was published at the end of last year, and I am really looking forward to reading that book. So welcome.
Hi, lovely to see you, and great to be part of the festival again.
Great. So your session is called Jump Around, Writing in Multiple Perspectives and in Multiple Timelines. And that's going to be on Sunday, the 28th of April at 4:30 p.m. at the Pavilion Dance. So tell us a little bit about you, first of all, and your writing journey, and the books that you published.
Okay, so I started off, I've always wanted to be a writer. Right from when I was a kid. I think some throwaway comment was made by an adult about with my imagination I should become a writer, and you know, kids just absorb these things like sponges. So foolishly they sent me down a lifetime's mission to become an author. Where I did, when I left university, I did history at university. When I left, I decided that I needed more life experience before I became a writer. So I went into journalism, which sounds super easy, but it wasn't. It involved lots of, working for free and working crazy hours and, doing some slightly strange things. But then the problem is that kind of took over, and I was having such a good time that I stopped sort of writing. So I was spending all day editing other people's writing. I ended up being the features editor or features director of Cosmopolitan, Good Housekeeping, That's Life magazine, and Easy Living. And I just ended up not really feeling like writing when I got home. So when I was 40, which is, the whole fun midlife timing, I decided to relocate to Bournemouth and freelance and try and write in my spare time. And there was a few twos and fro's after that. I had 2 children, which is also not really conducive to productivity of writing kind anyway. It took me 10 years to write my first novel, The Girl Who. That actually originally came from an idea that I had back when I was working at Cosmo a long time ago. And it's about a teenage girl whose mother and sister died in horrible circumstances, and it sort of catapults her into kind of media fame. She's kind of trying to deal with that while also kind of fantasizing about vengeance. And it's kind of, a psychological thriller to see how far she's going to go. And then Dead Lucky was my follow-up. I sent The Girl Who to agents, eventually found a lovely agent called Lena Langley, who was really passionate about what I was doing. She said, we'll come up with some more ideas. And I just thought of this sort of slightly outlandish idea of an influencer getting killed on camera, and it's sort of going viral, and what would happen and who would do that sort of thing. And I just set myself a challenge really of creating this crazy public murder, and then trying to figure out who would do something like that and why. And that sort of led me on to the 12 Days of Murder, which is my first book for adults, and it's also a whodunit. And that was again a bit of a crazy challenge of like people are being murdered in festive ways in a house cut up by the snow, and it's kind of like, again, a challenge of why would anyone do that, and looking into that, and that was really good fun as well. It's just a fun, slightly dark book.
Well, as I said, I really enjoyed Dead Lucky, and what you're saying about the first two books are very, very contemporary, you know, very much set in the now and talking about influencers and that. So your talk is called Jump Around, Writing in Multiple Perspectives and in Multiple Timelines. So how did you come up with that title, first of all, and what are you going to be talking about?
Okay, so Jump Around, unfortunately, is just because I had that earworm in my head from the 90s when I was sort of planning what to do. But basically, I've always written, well, until the 12 Days of Murder, I always wrote first person. In the young adult market, which is what my first two books were, the vast majority of books are written in the first person. A lot of them are in the present tense as well. And I enjoy that really close perspective of you only know what that character knows, but also sometimes it gets a bit claustrophobic. And so I wound up, like the girl who ended up being from two points of view. It was firstly from the point of view of Leah, the girl who witnessed the murder, and then her stepsister who's come to live in the house, you know, because their parents have fallen in love and they're sort of awkwardly treading around each other, and she's the only person that can see something's wrong. And it was really interesting to see, especially because this book was all about, you know, the real you on the inside and the public perception of you on the outside. It was really interesting to see Leah from those two perspectives, from herself and from someone looking at her from the outside. And it's just, you know, it just brings the whole thing to life to see it from two different perspectives, both quite blinkered perspectives. Yes, with the girl who I also ended up jumping around in time as well. So because you're obviously looking at the girls in present day, as I said, like having this awkward relationship, learning to live with each other, not liking each other very much or getting on very well. But then you obviously want to know what happened to Leah after the murders and how she ended up in this terrible situation. So I ended up writing a lot of flashbacks as well. So there's sort of two timelines in the book. And then with Dead Lucky, I ended up writing multiple timelines and perspectives too, with one present day timeline, which is Maxine, my main character, who's kind of the sleuthing character, because I love amateur sleuths, and one sort of flashback character, which flashes back to when Maxine and the other influencers are at school and kind of starting out making their own videos. So that again sees them from the outside, and this person's very jealous of them. And then that was quite effective in building tension, because you had, on the one hand, these guys are just having a great time making these really cool, fun videos, and then you've got this person on the outside watching them jealously. And I think that really added an extra element of tension to the book. So I think when you add extra perspectives and jump around in timelines, you can really add tension to a book, especially if you in the present day you have like a slow burn situation with secrets that are coming out. You can drop lovely hints of those secrets. So I thought a workshop on that might be fun, basically.
That's great, and it can be so confusing, can't it, when you have different characters, and you know, particularly as you said, in different time zones as well. Yeah. My first book is actually written from two different perspectives. It's a romantic thriller that tells both sides of the story. So you see the first part is from the female's point of view, and then the second part, then there's a twist, and then the second part is from the male's point of view. And you're right. And for me to try to get out of that muddle was the for reasons for the twist at the end, the first part is told in the third person, but the second part of from the man's point of view is told in the first person. And that's how we know when you're editing, you're in it, and you sometimes can't see the woods of the trees. That's how I know what story I'm in, because one's in the third person, one's in the first person.
Yeah, that's one of the things that we'll talk about, like deciding. I mean, it was an absolute pain, dead lucky, particularly because the flashback was all in past tense, and the present day stuff was all in present tense. And every time I transitioned from one chapter to another, it took me a while to remember what tense I was supposed to be writing in. But we will talk about like ways that you can signal to your readers that you're making a jump, so that it won't be too difficult for the reader, because you want them to come along for the ride, and you want them to kind of be on a cliffhanger but not go, oh, not this character again, I was too involved with the other one. So you have to juggle both of your timelines to make sure there's interesting things in both, and character arcs in both.
So what takeaways do you think writers will leave with after they've finished listening to you talk?
I'm just hoping it gets people to look at things from another angle, and encourage them to kind of play around with narrative and experiment, because actually when I do it, I find it really exciting. And part of the reason I do jump around a lot in chronological and into people's heads in my books is because it keeps me interested, and it keeps like. At the moment, I'm struggling with one because I'm trying to write it in a slightly claustrophobic way, and I'm trying not to jump around too much. And it's actually, I'm really getting itchy feet, and I want to get into another character's head. So I might introduce another narrator. I think it does like add energy to the story, and I think it's quite a powerful tool. And I'd really like to see people experimenting with it and adding it to the writing.
Great. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. So that's Andreina Cordani, and she has her talk, Jump Around, Writing in Multiple Perspectives and in Multiple Timelines, on Sunday, the 28th of April at 4:30 p.m. And that's going to be in the main festival hub at Pavilion Dance. So book your tickets now. So thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you. It's been a real pleasure.
And I look forward to seeing you with the rest of you in April for the Bournemouth Writing Festival. Take care.